Good morning, students. In this video, we will continue with the process of respiration. In previous video, we had discussed about what is respiration, what are the different types of respiration, that is aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration, and what are the different steps of aerobic respiration. So what are the different steps of aerobic respiration? So mainly it takes place in two steps. First step of aerobic respiration is glycolysis, in which glucose is broken down up to pyruvic acid. The second step of aerobic respiration is Krebs cycle, which takes place inside the mitochondria, in which further breakdown of pyruvic acid into CO2, water and energy takes place. So this is the step of aerobic respiration. Now we will continue with the process of aerobic respiration. So since the aerobic respiration pathway depends on oxygen, aerobic organisms need to ensure that there is sufficient intake of oxygen. So we all know that process of aerobic respiration takes place in presence of oxygen. So those organisms in which process of aerobic respiration takes place, so they must have to ensure that there should be sufficient intake of oxygen, because this aerobic respiration it takes place in presence of oxygen only. We have seen that plants exchange gases through stomata, and the large intercellular spaces ensure that all cells are in contact with air. Now in this slide we will discuss about how the exchange of gases takes place in plant, how plant they obtain oxygen for the process of aerobic respiration. So mainly plant they take oxygen by three different structures. So first structure is stomata. So we all know that stomata is a minute opening which remain present under the lower surface of leaves, and through these stomata the oxygen from atmosphere it enters into the plant, and which will be used up in the process of aerobic respiration. So first structure by which plant they take oxygen is stomata. Now second structure is the lenticels. So what is this lenticels? So lenticels are the small opening which remain present over the bark of stem, that stem part of the plant. Lenticels will remain present. And what is difference between stomata and lenticels? So both are minute pore, but the basic difference is that stomata they get closed during night time. Stomata they remain open during daytime, and they get closed during the night time. But on the other hand, lenticels they remain open throughout the day and throughout the night. And second difference is that stomata they can open, they can close, but lenticels they remain open throughout the day, throughout the night. And stomata they mainly present under the lower surface of leaves, but on the other hand lenticels they remain present over the bark. So this is the basic difference between the stomata and lenticels. So first structure by which plant they take oxygen was stomata, second structure is lenticels, and the third structure by which plant they intake oxygen is the root hair. So this root hair they remain present inside the soil, and inside the soil there will be some small spaces present, and in these spaces the air it will remain present, and through these air, by the process of diffusion, air from these air spaces they will enter into the root hair, and exchange of gases takes place, or we can say plant will take oxygen. So what are the different structures by which plant they can take oxygen? So first structure was stomata, second structure is lenticel, and third structure is root hair. Now carbon dioxide and oxygen are exchanged by diffusion here. They can go into cells or away from them and out into the air. So carbon dioxide and oxygen they will be exchanged by the process of diffusion. So what is diffusion? So simply the movement of substance from higher concentration to lower concentration is known as diffusion. So exchange of carbon dioxide and oxygen will take place by the process of diffusion. The direction of diffusion depends upon the environmental conditions and the requirement of the plant. So what will be the direction of diffusion, whether the CO2 will enter into the leaf or CO2 will go outside the leaf? So it will depends upon the environmental conditions. So these environmental conditions, they will depends, and the requirements of the CO2 or oxygen in plant. So it will also depends on, it will also direct the process of diffusion. So during night time, when there is no photosynthesis occurring, CO2 elimination is the major exchange activity going on. So during night time, what happens in the plant? So the process of photosynthesis, it mainly takes place during the daytime. So during night time, the process of photosynthesis will not take place. So at night, so during night what will happen? So CO2 will be eliminated out from the plant body. But on the other hand, during the day, CO2 generated during respiration is used up for photosynthesis. Hence, there is no CO2 release. Instead, oxygen release is the major event this at this time. So during daytime, what will happen? So this CO2 will be released by the process of respiration, and this CO2 will be utilized by plant during the process of photosynthesis, because we know that CO2 is an important component for photosynthesis. And during daytime, oxygen release will be the major event which will take place in the plant body. So are you able to recall the difference between what takes place during the daytime and what process is taking place during the night time? So during night time, what will happen? CO2 will be released from the plant. On the other hand, during daytime, this CO2 which is released by the process of respiration, they will be utilized by the plant itself by the process of photosynthesis, and oxygen will be released during daytime. Now, animals have evolved different organs for the uptake of oxygen from the environment and for getting rid of the carbon dioxide produced. Now we'll talk about animals, that what are the different structures present in the animals by which they can perform the exchange of gases. For example, the insect like spider, they have a structure called book lung which will help in the exchange of gases. The chicken, they have lungs for the exchange of gases. The the sponges, the poriferans, they have simple pores present in their body by which they can perform the exchange of gases. The caterpillar, they possess minute pores in their body which is known as spiracles, and through these spiracles the exchange of gases takes place. In fish, they possess gills by which exchange of gases takes place in them. Now, terrestrial animals can breathe the oxygen in the atmosphere, but animals that live in water need to use the oxygen dissolved in water. So, now what is the difference between the terrestrial animals and the aquatic animals? So, terrestrial animal means those animals which live on land surface. So, for them there is a abundance of oxygen because oxygen is present in atmosphere, so very easily they can take oxygen from atmosphere. But what about the aquatic animals, those animals which are living inside water? So, whatever oxygen is dissolved in water, so only this much is the source of oxygen for the aquatic animals like fish. So, since the amount of dissolved oxygen is fairly low compared to the amount of oxygen in the air, the rate of breathing in aquatic organism is much faster than that seen in terrestrial organisms. So, this one is also very important point. So, simple straightforward question will come, that why the rate of breathing is very high in aquatic organism as compared to the terrestrial organism. So what should be our answer? So since the amount of oxygen present in water is very less as compared to the atmosphere, so that's why the the rate of breathing is very much higher in aquatic organism as compared to the terrestrial animal. Now, how the exchange of gases takes place in fish. So fishes take in water through their mouths and force it past the gills, where the dissolved oxygen is taken up by the blood. So how the exchange of gases takes place in fish? So mainly fish, they intake the oxygen rich water through their mouth, and forcefully they expelled out with the help of their gills. So when the water will be expelled out through the gills, what will happen? The exchange of gases will take place. So in the gills part of the fish, so the gills, they are very richly supplied with the blood vessels. So when the water will be oxygen rich water will be forcefully expelled out through gills, exchange of gases takes place. Whatever CO2 will be present in blood, it will goes out along with the water, and whatever oxygen is present in the water, it will be entered into the blood. So this is how the exchange of gases takes place in fish by the help of gills. Now we'll talk about the terrestrial animals like human beings. So terrestrial organisms use the oxygen in the atmosphere for respiration. This oxygen is absorbed by different organs in different animals. So in terrestrial organism, those organisms which live on land surface, so they absorb oxygen with the help of different structures present in them, just like spiracles, book lungs, gills. Now, all these organs have a structure that increases the surface area which is in contact with the oxygen rich atmosphere. So, what is the common feature of these structures? So, they increases the surface area for the maximum contact with oxygen rich atmosphere. So this is the respiratory system of human beings. So in respiratory system, you can see that the process of exchange of gases takes place inside the lungs. So human beings, we have one pair of lungs, so right lung and left lung. So from atmosphere we breathe in, and finally the oxygen rich air, it will enters into the lungs, and where the exchange of gases will takes place. Since the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide has to take place across this surface is very fine and delicate. So in which part of the lungs exchange of gases takes place? So answer is the alveolar sac. So this is the lungs, and each lungs possess millions of small sac like structure which is known as alveoli, or it is also known as alveolar sac. So inside these alveolar sac, the exchange of gases takes place, and these alveolar sac, they are very fine, very delicate structure. In order to protect this surface, it is usually placed within the body, so there have to be passages that will take air to this area. So these structure, these alveolus or these alveoli, they are very delicate in structure, so that's why it is need to protect them. So our lungs, it remain protected by the structure of bones which is known as ribs. So our lungs, it is well protected inside the rib cage. In addition, there is a mechanism for moving the air in and out of this area where the oxygen is absorbed. So in next video we will discuss about the mechanism of breathing, how we inhale and how we exhale. So this much only in this video. In next video we will discuss about the process of breathing, and in detail we will study about the how the process of respiration takes place in human beings. So thank you, have a nice day.